welcome back to Ozark Garden Talk. I'm Sarah McHugh, owner of White River Nursery.
I am Charity Cox. I do purchasing of plants here and coordination of education and classes.
And I'm Alex Royce. I'm the general manager.
And today we have a topic, but we wanted to start off with some listener questions that we got through Facebook and Instagram. We thought it'd be kind of fun to see what people were asking about and what people really wanted. We're trying to bring some real life examples in to see what people are really interested in. So, are you guys ready for a couple questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
One of the first questions we got was, which easy to grow native plants can help turn an area with bad soil into a healthy, fertile soil without having to buy bags of soil or compost?
Which is an awesome question. I mean, we all know the soil here is problematic. We've got really heavy clay soil, tons of rocks, not a lot of organic material, generally poor drainage. And so, yeah, the normal route is to just amend it with a bunch of bags of compost or bulk material. But I like the question.
That wasn't an answer.
Not yet.
Oh, okay. So you're going to let me go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, I have more questions. So sometimes, being able to answer a question for a customer in store and online too leads to more questions like, is the area you're trying to work on clay? I mean, which is more than likely, part of the issue, a hard pan or something. Is it full sun? Is it shade? Like all these things factor into your plant choices, obviously, of what's going to grow best there. And then also, my other question would be, what are you trying to do with the soil after you improve it? So is it a vegetable garden site, or is it an ornamental, or woody shrub fruiting plants? So all of those would lead to different answers, I think.
Yeah, we talked about that before we started recording, and I think that's a really good point. I mean, when I read the question, I didn't think as much about use after remediation, which that plays a huge role. I mean, my initial thoughts were a lot of things like native grasses. They've got very deep root systems. They'll break up that clay, pull nutrients up to the surface. And then, if you cut them back yearly and just let the tops kind of break down where they are, chop and drop as they call it, then you're going to really improve that soil texture over time. But as Charity pointed out, it's difficult to remove them and then use it, for instance, like a vegetable garden.
Right.
Or to plant other more traditional flowers after the fact. So, yeah, that plays a big role.
The native grasses do. They have such extensive root systems. They're going to hold soil. They can be a physical accumulator of debris, basically organic debris, which anything organic, and I don't mean like organic certified, I mean organic material, like it will break down into soil eventually, will improve your soil over time because it does break down, the earthworms come to chew on it, the soil microbes, and it just starts building the soil. But the wonderful thing about like these native grasses and prairie grasses is their root systems are like, some of them are like 13 feet long or something crazy.
Yeah, I read that Big Blue Stem's root system is 10 feet deep often, which is amazing.
It is, and that's why they're still here. But once they are here, they're here. So you cannot come back in and plant over the top of that. What came to mind for me was more on preparing the soil for vegetable gardening, or I mean, even just having nice soil to work in to plant annuals. Like, I mean, it doesn't, it doesn't have to be. I know the question was specific to natives. What easy native plant? So, when you're trying to improve soil, you do want to create organic matter. So that chop and drop situation is always a good solution to start implementing somehow. Right. But then I think nitrogen fixing plants. Dynamic accumulator plants, which have those deep roots that can pull up trace minerals from the soil. And then, depending on the stage that you use that plant, when you chop and drop or chop and compost, you create your own compost, which hopefully everyone start your compost, okay? It doesn't have to be food scraps. It can be your yard debris. This is how you build soil, is with creating your own compost, whether it's on the spot with chop and drop or in a bin somewhere, some fencing, pallets, whatever. And then you have your own compost, which is a process, but it does work even without being super nerdy. You can have a compost pile. You don't have to do all the things all the time. Nature is going to break down organic matter.
Just might take a little bit longer if you just.
So one, nitrogen fixing plants, native, are in the legume family. We have the lead plant, which Amorpha canadensis.
That sounds right, Charity.
Fructosa is another. So Amorpha fructosa and Amorpha canadensis. Yeah, thank you. Lead plant is canadensis, I believe. And it is a short, cute plant. I adore it. It looks like a tiny mimosa tree, actually. It has the little leaflets. It does bloom purple. It has a humongous taproot. It is a prairie plant. So prairie plants tend to enjoy might be the wrong word, thrive with the burns. So prairies would catch on fire. The root systems are huge. They do get the nutrients from way down low, and the plant regenerates from its strong root system. Because of that, things like blue stem and lead plant have big root systems, but the lead plant is fairly well behaved, and it is considered a small woody shrub. I think 2 feet is its max, and could become a permanent planting in the area that you're working with. Again, this is more questions like, can you leave the native plants you're planting? Amorpha fructosa is the shrub indigo. It can get 8 foot tall, but you can chop on it. You could use some of that limbs and leaves for organic matter to create compost, but it's also going to be nitrogen fixing in the area. Black locust is a native tree. It's a huge tree. Do you have room for a tree in the area you're working with? Because if you do, that's going to create a whole network through the whole area of a nitrogen fixing roots. So, some of the plants in permaculture often touted aren't native, and that's kind of the thing, which can be a problem depending on what the plant is. Comfrey is often recommended. There are comfreys that stay within their bounds. They're not aggressive and spreading. And I have one, so I know it works. Comfrey is a majorly awesome bioaccumulator. It has huge taproots, brings up trace minerals. You cut off the leaves, put it into your compost, use it as a mulch, breaks down, and supplements the soil. And I could go on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. I would just throw one more thing in there. With what you said in mind about wanting to use it later, partridge pea. Partridge pea is an annual. It's a native. Yeah. You can plant it by seed in an area. Basically, it has bacteria in the root system that converts atmospheric nitrogen and puts it in the soil for you. So something like that for adding nutrition, it's easy. You could plant it, you could remove it later, or dig it in.
And so like in the green manure,
exactly.
That's another term for it. Instead of chop and drop, green manure is, my understanding of green manure is to either use it into a compost
or till
and
it
to turn it over.
I am not an advocate for tilling
because
it opens a seed bank, introduces more weeds, and if you have Bermuda, we all do, it chops it up and makes more for you. So I would never super promote tilling, but also on the legumes, it's very important as to when you do the chop or the removal as to where the nitrogen is in the plant. So it just keeps going.
It does keep going.
So, another one, I would say, like anything with a taproot or a larger root as an annual, just throwing this out there, potatoes. It's an annual crop that we can grow. You might not get good potatoes in a heavy soil, but that tuber root will break up the soil. So, and then it's gone, pull it out.
Daikon radish has been used that way for centuries.
Exactly. So those aren't native, but they're short-lived plants that can be removed so that you can use the area again.
Right.
So it's kind of Yeah, I mean, it's a great subject. It's like,
Yeah, and we could go on and on
Yes,
about
for
these,
sure.
I think. But, I mean, and the second question really kind of plays in, is along the same lines. This customer had a question, moist clay soils and what works best for them. Mine get inundated and stay quite wet after rain, enough so that we get prairie crayfish. So,
that's so cool.
And, you know, it's hard to tell, again, if they're asking about plants or just soil improvement. I would make the argument that step one in a situation like that is improving the soil, getting some kind of organic material into the soil so that we can increase pore space, improve drainage, make it suitable for a wider range of plants. That said, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that will grow in those conditions as is, and a lot of like black-eyed Susan, goldenrod I read, which I thought would not be as tolerant of the wet, but
some of the species really do enjoy that.
Yeah.
Specifically, the cultivar we have, Fireworks, which is Solidaga rugosa, which you can get the straight species too, but often cultivated as Fireworks, or propagated, is Fireworks. And it behaves exactly the same. The flower shape isn't different or anything. That one is a moisture-loving goldenrod, which is one reason it's not at my house. Because I don't want.
We know you don't
I don't
water.
want to kill it, so
Right.
I'm not putting it in the middle of the baking sun. Now it might adapt to that, but there's other goldenrods that are better for that, which is
Right.
also another topic. But
and then there's woody shrubs like buttonbush
for sure.
that could
correct, yeah,
be
like
hoppy.
like popped in mind instantly. Sweet spire, so sweet spire is Itea, clethra, which is summer sweet. I have a hard time with those two. Those both like enjoy drinking a lot of water. They don't mind the clay soil. Clethra might be a little more sensitive to hard or lots of clay. Buttonbush for sure. So some of the other like woody shrubs. So if you had room for woody shrubs with 6 hours of sun, those things would work.
Some of the sumacs probably as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Again, also when plants are in a good place for them, things like these natives are going to sucker and fill in. So how much room do you have and what do you want the end result to be is pretty important too.
Yeah.
But if you have crayfish, I suggest like seeing what all they do. That is probably a wonderful health indicator, because crayfish can only exist in certain.
It's got to be clean and not a lot of
Yeah,
toxins.
that's
Yeah,
so
that's
exciting.
true.
So like instead of that, maybe you just need to develop a wetland with some cool rocks and like
And
edge plants.
Kudos
and,
for not spraying your lawn
Yes,
also.
yeah, I think
very-
that sounds so fun.
I can totally see you developing a whole thing around the
Village.
yeah. Okay, the next one is what to do around fence lines. What are the best native ground covers, weed smotherers when you don't want grass along the fence line? I think this was a hard one.
It is. I mean, there are not a lot of even vigorous ground covers that are truly going to outcompete Bermuda.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen or had the experience of Bermuda crawls into Liriope and comes up right in the middle. It'll,
Yeah.
And Charity also pointed out, there's a lot of caveats to this question. I mean, if this is the north side of a privacy fence, that's a completely different scenario than a barbed wire fence out in the middle of a field in full blazing sun. So
Right.
it's a hard question to answer. There are some ground covers that if you cleared that grass first, got them in there, kind of nurtured them, gave them a little bit of a mulch barrier, pulled the Bermuda as it was trying to encroach, eventually it would be able to stand up for itself to some degree, but that's a hard one.
Yeah. So again, if it's a lack of a better word, open fence, like so you don't have. So at my house, I have like field fence, so it's wired to the ground or chain link. If it's a space that you can maintain once or twice a year, and you don't mind things being in the fence, like a barbed wire fence, big blue stem, you cut it once or twice, it's going to be doing its thing. But I mean, I'm guessing that's not what you want in a
Right.
fence
Yeah.
line. So it's kind of
Yeah,
like
that sounds like they want maybe a
something
low.
open. Again, the preparation of that is going to take some time. I mean, the Rudbeckia can really get thick under black-eyed Susans. Sorry, it can get really thick and form. I mean, it's still going to let Bermuda through though. The lyre leaf sage, that we talked about earlier is, I think first podcast.
Yeah.
Does a big basal leaf, but if you don't get rid of the Bermuda, I mean,
it's a tough one, and maybe that's the answer. That there's not a great answer.
Right.
There's not a great solution.
Some of the things established, which could then maybe lead to success in your area.
Right.
And you see what works for your area and your soil that you're having to plant in, and then you reproduce that along the fence line over time. I think that would probably be my best recommendation.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's a valid answer, because sometimes there's not something that's perfect, especially
right.
There's not just a low ground cover. We do have so many invasives that our natives are trying to compete with. And that's a hard thing to talk about, but okay, on to our main topic. Our main topic today is plants that work. And we kind of got this inspiration from a line of plants or a branding of plants that we carry that have that name. And it's kind of, it's just a easy button. These are plants that fill a need, that are tough. They have low care. They are long lasting. They can tolerate so many different conditions. That's kind of what we mean when we say plants that work.
Yeah.
So we just kind of wanted to go over some of our favorite plants and like what we have in our own gardens or own spaces, or we've seen at the nursery that just fill so many needs. Mm-hmm. So who wants to start with our first one?
What you got?
Oh, mine? Okay, yeah, you guys have talked a lot. So the first one that came to mind that I really love is ninebark. And we actually have some here sitting in the back. I have one of the cultivars. I don't have the straight species native in my yard, but the straight species native is a green leaf ninebark. And I should have... Do you guys know the Latin?
Physocarpus.
Optifolius. I
actually don't know the species.
That's
Physocarpus is what I do know.
Oplifolium. Anyway.
Anyway, we'll get that in the show notes.
Yeah,
This is a difficult one to read, but anyway, native to our area. Blooms white, kind of has a spirea-like bloom. I feel like a little cluster. They're just so cute and they're so tough. They like either full sun, maybe some part shade in the afternoon. I've seen mine do really well with some afternoon shade, but can take full sun. I think they might get a little rattier looking in the late summer if they're in full blazing sun. I don't know if that's your experience.
The straight species for sure. The darker cultivars, I mean, they need quite a bit of sun to maintain that good bold color. But
right, yeah, and I think they bloom a lot better. Mine gets at least 6 hours of sun, but it doesn't get the afternoon, just absolute heat.
Do you know which cultivar you have?
I have Summer Wine, which is a really dark leaf. It's a
large one too.
Yes, it does get large. Yeah, they Summer Wine's 5 to 8 feet. The species is about that too.
Does yours have the so a lot of times the ninebarks, the cultivars the cluster before it opens looks pink.
Yes.
But often once it's open, it is fairly white. Is Summer Wine white when it's open?
It is white when it's open, and it does have a tinge of pink. Yeah. So it's a really cute plant, and it's just the foliage colors that are so diverse in ninebark. I mean, the Amber Jubilee has a lot of red and green. Then there's Ginger Wine, which also has a lot of variation in the color.
There's a lot of burgundies and kind of orange rust to a lot of them.
Yes. and very drought tolerant, especially once established.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It has some winter interest with the exfoliating bark. You know, once it gets
it's older.
Once it's
Yeah.
older, also,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And we do have kind of the flip side is lemon candy.
Yes,
which is
a
chartreuse.
right.
It doesn't have any of the oranges even at new growth. It's very yellow.
Yes.
Sometimes in the heat, I have lemon candy.
Uh-huh.
It will go to a light green
Kinda
as
more
opposed
pale.
to the chartreuse yellow color.
Yeah.
Which in the summer, I'm just like, let's all just live, okay?
Yeah.
It's okay. My 9 barks are, you probably have some shade for yours.
Yeah, in that just the afternoon, really.
Yeah. So I have, I had a 9 bark that had too much shade. So that can happen. And it ended up.
I feel like it needs at least like 6 hours of sun.
Yeah,
4 to
probably.
6, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, maybe 4 if it's an intense, the evening sun, which kind of counts for a little extra.
Right.
So I've lost one due to overshading. As we all know, I don't water that much, but they are slow to establish. Like, I think, more than that, even that 3 years of sleep, creep, and leap process, I mean, that definitely applies.
It's like
Right.
sleep, creep, creep.
Exactly.
Leap.
And I think, honestly, just a little further north where we don't have the heat and humidity, they grow quicker and fuller faster.
They are a zone 2 to 8, so they
Yeah.
do like.
So we're on the hot
We're on
end.
the southern end
Yeah.
of their range, but I still feel like they're tough. I mean,
They
in
are.
most conditions.
I
If-
have 4, and
Uh-huh.
4 out of 5. So like I
Okay.
lost 1.
Uh-huh.
So obviously, and mine are full sun. I've got some trees that are getting bigger, so I'm getting a little bit of shade on a couple of them. But overall, the full sun ones have done well.
Do you have the species native?
I do not, and if I did, I would definitely give it shade.
Yeah.
I feel like it just naturally occurs in moister areas, which is not my yard.
Yeah.
And edges, right? Like edge of woodlands is very nice
Stream
for
bank,
it. So I
kind
feel
of.
like I would give that full green leaf a little bit of shade.
And they're kind of big and wild, too.
They are. They're
Yeah,
gorgeous.
they do kind of. I think they're beautiful the way they cascade a little bit. I think they're
That's what
especially
is-
when they're blooming.
It gives it like a softness to
Uh-huh.
the arching stems, and then the flowers clusters go across it, which summer wine
Yeah.
is really like that.
Very much.
Ginger wine, amber jubilee, lemon candy, they're a little more upright. So
Yeah.
those are like a 5 to 6 foot range for
Yeah.
those. So they're a little more upright shrub as opposed to the super arching of summer wine or even the straight native.
Right, and then there is
So.
tiny wine, which is
Yes.
like 3 to 5, so
Yes.
a little bit smaller. a
Oh,
little
and
bit
we
more.
have gumdrop, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
another
I
part of that
forgot
candy
about that
set,
one.
and that one's only 2 to 3.
Yeah, it's,
So I haven't grown that one, but it's a 9 bark you can fit in somewhere.
it is,
So
and
there
it's
is no
it's
excuse.
Super
You can have
cute.
a 9 bark.
Yeah. So no, I think I love them, and yeah, there is a broad selection of plants. So, anybody else have a?
Sure. A lot of people here know one of my very favorite perennials are just the black-eyed Susan Goldstern, the native black-eyed Susan. Absolutely gorgeous, super easy to care for, drought tolerant, tolerates wet conditions, tolerates clay, grows in full sun to part shade, long bloom time. I mean, they're bulletproof. They're one of the best plants. I would say one of the only problems is they can reseed a little bit.
Which
Oh,
is
yeah.
But
not
gently.
a problem
You s-
unless you don't want them there. So
Right.
this could be considered a friend plant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as it gets bigger, you divide it or pull out
Pass it
some of the
along.
seedlings and give it to a friend or move it around the yard.
And I mean, it's not as if they take over the world. I had a big clump in the backyard, and the clump grows a little bit year over year, and you'll have a couple kind of pop up here and there, which obviously I didn't mind at all, but something to be
Yeah.
aware of.
Right. Yeah. But that's kind of some of the attributes of an easy plant
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
it's going to get bigger on its own and maybe make more of it to cover the area. I think purple coneflower is a similar thing. Also reseeds, but it reseeds further from its original plant because I have them pop up in different areas, which I don't mind, and I just transplant them.
Birds like to feed on those quite a bit
that's
too.
true.
So
yeah, the
that
seed
makes
heads
sense.
of that is probably the dispersal method. Yeah.
Has it been your experience that with coneflower, you kind of got to get them through that first winter? Once you get them through that first year, they seem to be very tough, but...
Yeah, and my experience is, so Echinacea purpurea is what I'm referring to, and that one, it tends to thrive a lot better in some shade, actually, at my house. Maybe it's because I don't water them that much. But, I think they do fine in full sun, but where they are growing themselves gets part, I would call it part sun, like even a half day's worth of shade, they're totally fine.
Okay.
So
I have the same
interesting.
black-eyed Susans. I have the same kind of situation where they get only probably maybe 4 hours of sun, and they bloom profusely.
I was thinking to myself when you were talking about the 9 bark, I mean, getting 6 hours, so full sun, but not getting that hot afternoon sun is like the ideal scenario for most full sun plants. I mean, in the
Very
hottest
true.
part of the summer, nothing wants to be out there cooking, so...
Yeah, me either.
Same.
Yeah. I think, so the plant I would add in actually is spirea, and it is not a native. The ones I'm talking about, the flower just rained on you. The spirea, oh gosh, I'm not going to know if it's like the Chinese one or, but so I have planted blue kazoo, which is a proven winter variety that blooms white. It's blooming right now. Has really awesome foliage, and they've developed a lot of these spireas to be foliage plants as well as the bloom to add,
and they can
season extension,
Gold thread and all that.
Gold thread, which has a wonderful fun leaf.
Candy corn.
Candy corn will like knock your eyes out of your head because it's got all the chartreuses and pinks of the leaf immersion.
It looks like a bloom whenever just the leaves are coming out. Yeah.
So the spireas are doing good at my house. Full sun, dry. Now I would say full sun is necessary. Don't put them in shade. They're not going to handle it.
Yeah, they get lanky.
Yeah, and they'll just eventually fail. I think that they just can't. They do need the full sun, but the hot full sun, low water needs. They do cover, they're a bush form, so they cover the ground, so they're shading it, which in my case will shade out the darn Bermuda when it gets through the mulch, and it weakens it enough to make it weedable.
Right.
It's tough, and it's pretty for most of the year. It does get sticky in the winter, so it's just, drops all its leaves. There's not a lot of interest there. The maintenance overall is a little trim while it's dormant. You can take off because it's fine.
Stems.
Not limbs, stems. Thank you. And so if you kind of give it a dome haircut, it will get some of those dead twigs back so that as it pushes forth the new growth, they're not like hairy with little tiny dead sticks. Other than that, there's not much else to it.
No. And there's so many. They're smaller shrubs, so they can fit in
be
everywhere.
Any size.
I haven't. Are there bigger ones?
Well, yes. So Renaissance.
Is that big? Oh yeah, I forget.
One.
Okay,
So
I forget about the bigger, like the bridal wreath and stuff
just
like that.
Anything.
The older
there's a
fashioned
bunch
ones.
of them. So like there's the bridal wreath,
Yeah.
which does get that can get like 8 foot tall, right? Or is it like a 5,
I was going to
6?
say 4 to 6.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty big.
Could be off.
The bridal wreaths, like the old fashioned bridal wreaths, are the unkempt hedges of forsythia, quince, and bridal wreath.
Yes, those
in
old
the
fashioned.
spring, and those suckers get huge. We do carry those, but even some of them are 5 to 6 foot.
Yeah.
A green leaf form.
Yeah.
With a pretty pink bloom clusters. The butterflies do enjoy the
I have like Anthony Water.
double play. I was trying to think of the double
I was going to
play.
say it's
Anthony Water would be a good
one of the older ones, and the butterflies and stuff seem to visit.
Yeah. I mean, it does have some nectar available, I think.
Right.
There is a native spirea, and it's awesome. We've had it once. I only was able to get it once. It actually looks like an astilbe bloom,
Yes.
and it is wonderful for pollinators. It does need a lot of wetness so it doesn't come to my house. Like, I wanted it so bad. It's pink blooming, and it gets big. It's like a 5'6", and it will sucker. So it would need its right spot. But it will grow here, and it's really pretty.
That's a
If
cool
you're going to
one.
ask me to get it, I'll try. But it was hard. It was hard to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my next one was Arkansas Blue Star.
Oh yeah.
Love
I
'em.
they're just such a, I just love watching them even in the wind. When the wind blows, I feel like that clump of, it's almost like a grass-like clump, but very upright with the blue blooms. It's such a soft, it's one of those plants you just want to run your hand through. But native to, I didn't realize that its native range was just pretty much Arkansas and Oklahoma. So that was kind of,
But it will grow other areas.
yeah,
Like-
it's a 5 to 8.
Yeah.
So, but its original native
Yes.
range was really close in. So,
Yeah.
but 2 to 3 foot tall. I have the Arkansas Blue Star, Amsonia Hubrichtii, and then I also have Storm Cloud, which Storm Cloud is not Hubrichtii. I need to look up. I forgot to look up which one that one
I think
was.
it might be a hybrid.
Yeah,
between-
it is. It's
between
not
two of
necessarily.
them.
Yeah.
And so it has that thicker leaf, right?
It does
Yours
have the
does?
thicker
Yeah.
leaf, yeah, but it's a little bit darker of a stem. So it's a cool plant
Those
too.
were so beautiful when we got them in. I mean, they flew out of here.
They
Yeah.
did. They
Yeah.
did. And one thing I have noticed with where I have that one planted, I might need to move it, is it is in a little bit more shade than it probably wants. And I think this is the same with the Arkansas Blue Star as well, as they will get a little floppy. They don't have the as much upright if they're not in as much sun.
In my experience, their growth habit, I don't want to call it floppy, but they're almost like a rounded shrub. Like the
Yeah.
central stems go up and then it kind of fans out. We had one out here in the display bed for years and years, and that
still there.
thing,
It's still there.
Yeah, you know why?
Yeah,
That
I
thing
know.
was huge. We
I do
dug
know.
out the base of it,
I
and we
was there.
left a little piece,
I
and it
was
is
there.
now a big, beautiful.
We thought it was gone.
Oh, it's awesome.
It-
I love
so
that
like
thing.
I don't know how long your storm cloud has been in, but hurry up, go do that today
Mm.
because
Oh, yeah.
the root system is insane for those. It's a prairie plant,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Going back to that, and so it's not. I don't ever want to say you can't transplant something or you can't move it, because I have moved some of these things to say, oh, once established, don't. You can do it, but also be prepared to lose it.
But you can always
Yeah.
chip pieces off of it, too.
I was gonna
and
say,
just
I was
move
gonna
them
say
all
that
over
one
the
was
place.
pretty tolerant of
That one
a chop.
out in our
It was
display.
very established
How old
though.
do you think that thing was? I mean, the base of it
20
was
years.
just
It was a
absolutely
woody.
massive.
It was like a woody trunk.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was impressive. And it's still
Awesome.
there, and it's
Even-
blooming right now.
I was
It's
gonna
beautiful.
say, yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful out there right now. So if anybody, we have 9 bark out in the display bed as well.
Yes.
So if anybody
Lemon
wants to come
candy
by,
and tiny wine.
yes,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, out
Yeah.
there. So we
Yeah.
do have some, but yeah, just a very feathery, kind of soft textured
And
leaf.
then you get the fall color.
Yes, and then
Yes.
that beautiful kind of golden fall color is it's a great plant, and it is very tough once it's established. So yeah,
It is a slow plant. So because
Right.
it's working on that root system, which is extensive, it's going to take a while. What we sell here often has 2 or 3 stems.
Yeah.
We sell it in various sizes. So a quart is going to just be prepared. Again, think about what this is going to do. It is going to be a 3-foot wide plant. It will do it. I promise, if you give it time.
Yeah.
So I've actually had customers ask me if they should take 3 quarts and plant them together to make it. And I'm just like,
No.
please don't. Like that plant,
very
it,
unnecessary.
it will, I don't know how the competition between them would turn out, but like there was a
Well-
massive amount of,
And you say 3 feet wide. I'm thinking more like 6. You know, I mean, after
Yeah.
4
Over
or 5
time,
years,
right?
they
Maybe so.
take
Maybe
up some
so.
space.
Well, I wouldn't say 4 or 5. I would give it more, because I think I have one that's just straight species, Hubrichtii, that is, that thing is probably 4 years old. But it was container grown first in a gallon for a couple years, maybe 1 year too long. Not by me. I didn't do it. And, it has doubled in the ground since last year. but it's like it took it that whole time just sending up a few stems each year to get that pretty spray across it.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that this table is about the size of the display garden.
Yeah. And that
Right.
one was hacked to
And that was a little,
Yeah.
tiny little piece.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that-
and that was only, I mean, maybe 4 or 5 years
yeah,
ago.
probably about.
Yeah.
About that.
So they're an awesome plant though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. I'm gonna mention the Itea again, Sweet Spire. I
a good
planted
one.
several of those in front of my house. I'm happy to report I tore out some Nandinas
Ooh,
and
yay.
some
Good for you.
boxwoods and did a nice bank of the, I believe it was Little Henry that I planted that stays a little smaller. The
Yeah.
stray species gets pretty big
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and kind of wild. But man, those things, right now,
I bet they're
They look-
smelling wonderful.
they smell fantastic. The butterflies love them. They look amazing. I do basically nothing to them. They're a
They
native.
maintain a nice shape, too.
They do. They do. I mean, this is one of those well-behaved natives that Lissa would talk about.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it looks good at our house in the front bed. It doesn't look like, you know, a totally wild and crazy thing. It looks like we planned to put it there, which we did, of course. But yeah, I mean, it is clay. I did not amend that soil.
Builder's clay, I'm sure.
Yeah,
foundation clay.
it's awful. There's
Red
probably
dirt
chunks of brick in there and all kinds of stuff. And I mean, the house was only built 4 or 5 years ago, probably, so it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they are thriving.
That's
Awesome.
awesome.
They're so cool. And so you get the long bloom time, pretty long, and you get fantastic fall color with those guys
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was reading about them recently. They were saying that they're drought tolerant. I feel like they like to drink some water, you know, especially while they're trying to bloom and all that, and they're actively growing. If you let them dry out, it's really going to negatively affect the life of the bloom and the amount of blooms you get. So, fortunately, this year we've gotten plenty of
Yeah.
rain. But
Well, and I think they will be sparser leaved. The stress of not enough water will make them a little spindly and just
Right.
less pretty for
ours
sure.
is
Yeah.
so thick.
And yours is full sun.
It's facing east, and it's
the
a
perfect
it's,
sun.
Yeah.
It's a 2-story house, and you know it probably gets, I'd say, 4 or 5 hours of that morning sun. So
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
it is loving it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loving it. I will say, one of these words we mention frequently when talking about natives, especially, it does sucker at the
Yes.
base.
Yep.
So you know it is going to try to move out. Where I have it, because it is the front garden bed, is kind of the first thing you see when you come up. I am going to keep that kind of beat back. So far, it's been very simple. You know, I see a small sprig coming up 2 feet from the main plant. I just kind of pull it out.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
big deal. This
Yeah.
is not a horrible chore. So, but I'm very pleased with those guys.
Awesome. Did you get fall color last year? I know you planted them, so I didn't know if they would get stressed from that. Or?
Yeah, I mean, last year I planted them in early spring, and
Okay.
the bloom was not as showy as it is this
Yeah.
year, of course. The fall color, I mean, we'll see this fall, but it probably wasn't as impressive as it's going to
Yeah.
be this year. So,
Yeah.
I have a little Henry planted. It was one of our starter shrubs, the proven winter starters. So it started tiny.
Yeah.
And it has done well. It probably only gets 3 hours of sun.
Yeah.
At best. It is deciding that it really likes the sun and it's going toward it. But it is, plants talk to each other, and it is under a tree. It's a Jane magnolia, but it is limbed up. And so I feel like, it's kind of like trying to move out to get a little more light from that. But my whole yard is always behind everyone, like the blooms. I don't know, it's so strange. Mine hasn't flowered.
Really?
It's budded, but it's not open all the way. But a lot of shade. The bed that I have it in actually accumulates all the magnolia leaves, so it is very heavily mulched, and I don't remove them. So that bed actually retains quite a bit of moisture.
I was about to say it. That's saving your Sweet
Yeah,
Spire.
Yeah.
it is. And the hostas and the ferns. But that I think that's a testament to the shade tolerance. And they do say, everything you read says it will bloom in the shade, and it's very tolerant of shade. Do you have one?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And it gets probably, like I said, maybe 3 to 4 hours of sunlight, and it
Yeah.
blooms. Me and you, I think, are on the same kind of little eco system, because mine is just budded. It hasn't
Yeah.
quite opened up
Maybe
yet.
it's the shade.
And it might be just the shade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it is, and I get great fall color even in the shade. So
Nice. Yeah. That's cool.
it is an easy plant,
Love them.
but
Definitely.
yeah.
But I do think you do need a little bit of water to keep them looking the best.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be important.
to be completely honest, I basically burned the flowers off of it last year early by not watering. It got dry early,
Yeah.
and so I just installed one of those little the dripper hoses,
Yeah.
and just kind of figure eighted it around,
Yeah.
wove it through there, and
Yep.
it doesn't even. I don't run it very long at all, but
Right.
yeah, just
Yeah,
enough.
I think that would be it. Just supplemental, just a little supplemental
Yeah.
in the heat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have I don't know.
I don't know where we're at on time, but I'll throw in it's just such an easy plant. One of my favorites is the Caradonna salvia.
Oh yeah.
I feel like you could it's just such an easy perennial. I love Caradonna out of all the salvias because of the dark stem. I feel like it's just very upright, and it just seems a little bit more refined than some of the other salvias. So tough. Has a really intense purple bloom, stays short, 1 to 2 feet tall, and I've tucked it into even some, east side of my house as well, so just gets morning sunlight, and still blooms great. And that is just such a tough perennial that I feel like anybody, not a native, but still the pollinators do love it.
They do.
Yep.
And it's a
Long bloom time.
long
Yep.
bloom time.
If you deadhead it, it will bloom even more. But
Yes.
if you don't, it will still
typically don't
rebloom.
either.
Even
Right.
if you don't get around to cutting off the old blooms, it just
Keeps
keeps
going.
putting up more. It'll take longer in between.
Yeah.
Mine were planted at the base of a young Dawn redwood. So, it was eventually going to be a shade bed.
Right.
And I just actually transplanted them like 2 weeks ago to move
they're
them
finally
out
getting
into
a little too
a
much
new
shade.
set. But they were in bloom.
Yeah.
Don't do that. I transplanted them in bloom. But they still bloomed reliably all the way around the tree. So that tree, would have gotten shade on every side through the day.
Yeah.
And I would look over there, and my Dawn redwood was the amber glow, or is the amber glow, which has chartreuse edges. It's like beautiful tree. We have some. And the foliage of the chartreuse, feathery Dawn redwood, and the
then the
Caradonna, it's like, is it violet? Do you call it would that be
It's
almost
a pretty
electric
intense-
violet,
Yeah.
blue or purple color with the chartreuse? Just like, it's like, oh, I did that well.
I have the same little. It complements the oranges. I have that Nana Coreopsis kind of right
Oh,
in front
yeah.
of the Caradonna salvia, and I just love that little combo.
That's
It's so
That's another
cute.
super easy, great, reliable plant, the
And-
Coreopsis.
And the Nana is just my favorite out of all the Coreopsis, just because I can tuck it in as a border plant, and it's such a long
That
blooming.
would be considered a ground cover too.
It-
Because
right, yeah.
Don't your leaves stay evergreen, or do they not on that one?
Pretty much, actually, they do stay green.
I think they
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that true. Yeah.
And got to throw this in there because it's a salvia. The deer don't eat it.
Yes.
Valid point.
Yes.
Valid
So,
point.
and that goes for all the salvias. I mean, maybe a little baby deer might take a little nibble off of it, but generally speaking, they're about as close to deer proof as we're
Yeah.
getting with ornamentals.
I agree.
And
pollinators do visit them. All the different ones. We have quite a few different ones. Some of them have the larger flower form. They come out on a spire and bloom along the stem. I don't know who we have right now, but there's a pink one out there. I just walked past, and its tube flower is larger, so it is a little more distance visual. and it stands out a little bit more than caradonna. I think caradonna is important to either have a front drop or a back drop because
Yes.
the deep color to it needs something to help it pop.
Right.
But I love it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice plant. Well, I feel like we went over quite a few. So I feel like that's a good place to stop, and because we could keep going, because there's a lot of good, especially the natives. We could keep going, but if you could, everybody keep sending us in questions. I think that's kind of fun. We might even do like a podcast just answering questions the whole time. So, but anyway, I think that's our plants that work for this episode.
Yeah. And be sure to check show notes. We'll have pictures and notes
Exactly.
about each one, so you don't have to write anything down right now.
Yes.
On our website.
Yeah, we'll try to take
And-
some pictures of our own yards and our own gardens and send in what we've grown, so you can see a fully grown plant.
Yes.
So as an example, but
I like that.
yeah, nice. All right, well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.